Clix has been one of the best Fortnite pros from the very beginning. He's dominated in tournaments and has proven to be one of the best fighters in Fortnite. But when it comes to FNCS,
Talk to me, guys.
that is still one thing that hasn't gone his way. So I decided to ask a real Fortnite coach one question. What does Clix have to do to win an FNCS? Clix and Higgs are headed to the Major 1 Summit. This is a LAN tournament and they are committed to their drop spot at Wonky Land, which is one of the top 3 drop spots in the entire game right now. But there's a problem. They're not the only ones that will be landing there because Shark and Teeny from EU have also decided to contest Wonky. The main goal for Clix and Higgs going into the Summit LAN is to get at least 6 out of the 8 games to go their way. They need to make it off spawn with decent loadouts and be in a good position heading into the mid game. A lot of the other big names are also going into the finals with good drops, except they're fully uncontested. Teams like Peterbot and Pollo at Squibbly Shores, Sky and Scroll on the north side of Battlewood, and Vino and Curve on the south side of Battlewood. With these big names uncontested, they're going to start each game farming and perfecting their loadouts, and they won't have to worry as much about being hit for Surge, which puts them in a much better position to win it all compared to Clix and Higgs. With the best players in the world in the same lobbies with the same ping, even 6 good games might not be enough to win. There's a world where they can only throw away one of their matches and have to play nearly flawlessly for the other 7. These uncontested teams can play at their own pace while Clix and Higgs can't. That is, unless they decide to split the drop at Wonky Land with Shark and Teeny.
I honestly don't think they're gonna fight. I think it's gonna be end up us splitting it. Uncon Wonky, nice dude.
Clix and Higgs have been uncontested all season long, so they haven't had the chance to perfect their off-spawn fighting experience that a lot of other teams have, including Shark and Teeny. They've practiced against other pros in custom games to get used to fighting for Wonky Land, so they might feel prepared for their off-spawn battles. However, Shark and Teeny do have experience fighting for Wonky when it mattered the most during the FNCS. They were contested in heats and in the grand finals by Huddy and Fishy, so they already know what it's like to be contested at this POI at a specifically very high level. That kind of experience is very different compared to off-spawn practice in customs. The right play here might be for them to go for a very aggressive early 50-50. Don't try to play it slow and drag it out into a long fight, because what ends up happening is if the fight drags out too long, even if you end up getting the win, you're still behind on the overall match. At least a fast 50-50 gives them a good chance at winning the fight and still having time to loot up before third party arrives. The only other option is for them to split the drop, but I am not too sure if Shark and Teeny want to share. The next thing they need is to be aware of the teams that are landing around Wonky Land. There are a few uncontested teams nearby, and they will be likely looking in their direction to start getting tags for Storm Surge. It could be worth it for Clix and Higgs to spend a lot of extra wood off spawn to block off some of these free shots, and if they end up winning their off spawn fight with Shark and Teeny, we don't want their game to end abruptly due to Storm Surge like it has in the past. If you're new to competitive Fortnite or you're unfamiliar with the new Storm Surge, let me break it down for you. When a lobby is stacked and there are too many players alive, some players will start taking damage even if they are not in the storm. The only way to avoid this is to stay above the Storm Surge threshold, which is determined by the net damage of the average player. So the goal is to deal as much damage as you can without getting hit in return. If you are below the Storm Surge threshold, you're going to get hit for 25 HP every 5 seconds until enough players in the lobby have been eliminated. Some teams have gone as far as 900 damage below Surge because of how often they were getting tagged while rotating. So even if Clix and Higgs beat Shark and Teeny off spawn, they still could end up below the Surge if the fight is too close. Clix and Higgs also need to be on the lookout for other teams that will rotate into Wonky for the Ferris wheel. Wonky is one of the best POIs right now because of how insane the rotation is using the wheel with fizz grenades. You can get across the entire map within seconds, and a lot of teams want to take advantage of that. It's possible that nearby teams like Yuma and Kyoto will be rotating in or even tanking Storm to use the wheel for its mobility. During the FNCS, Storm Surge was a problem for Clix and Higgs in several games, so their awareness for the teams lurking by needs to be a top priority. If Clix and Higgs pull zone at Wonky Land and it goes towards the mountains up north, they need to make it an immediate priority to position themselves on that high ground. A lot of the teams aren't used to this side of the map and will underestimate how long it takes to actually get up that mountain. They might be close enough and assume they will have time, but they're more likely to get cut off by other teams like Acorn and Bolts who claim the mountain split. If Clix and Higgs can get up the mountain early and claim the high ground, they can play from a true power position for the rest of the game and potentially end up winning because of it. Speaking of positioning, a common mistake for a lot of teams is getting separated while rotating through stacked zones. One thing I noticed a few times while spectating Clix's games is that their shockwave rotations aren't always perfect. There have been a few times where I've seen Clix and Higgs get separated from each other, like in game 2 of the heats. When Clix used his overdrive grenades, he spent way too much time in the air, which made him an easy target for the rest of the lobby. It wouldn't hurt to spend some extra time in custom games perfecting their rotations out of boxes from different angles and elevations. This will be crucial for their mid game and end game to make sure their match doesn't get cut short over something so simple. They did seem to make some improvements towards this when we watched them in the Grands. Speaking of the Grand Finals, watching them in Major 1, one thing was very clear. Clix and Higgs need to play the format. Going into FNCS, expectations were high given how well they placed in the Division Cups and Evaluation Cups. Clix and Higgs have been dominating endgames playing from height this season, which worked well when eliminations were worth 1 point in the Eval Cups. However, this was not an Eval Cup. We saw Clix and Higgs have some good placements with back-to-back wins, but since the format was less placement heavy, the leaderboard didn't reflect that success. When you take a look at the final leaderboard from Grands, there were 5 teams that had better average placements than Curve and Veno, yet they still won by 20 eliminations. With elimination points alone, Curve and Veno would have qualified to the Land Summit. Clix and Higgs were able to keep control of height throughout moving zones, but they weren't able to get many kills while doing it. At one point in the tournament, Clix had the most AR damage out of anyone in the lobby, but they never got more than 4 kills in a single game. Going into this summit, Clix and Higgs need a new plan to get eliminations because Surge tags don't win championships. They tend to play very passively in Storm to get good positioning in later zones, but this strategy came with a cost. Some of their worst games ended because of Storm sickness, and the lack of eliminations kept them right on the edge of the Storm Surge threshold. So rotating out of Wonky Land earlier in the game could be the move to avoid tanking so much Storm damage. Clix said himself that they could have abused the Wonky Wheel to jump on people's heads and get more eliminations. Even if they wanted to stick to their game plan early on, they could switch things up in moving zones. Pre-edits are one of the main tools for taking walls in endgames, and if you do it right, you can surprise a team, get a refresh, and keep moving. We didn't see Clix and Higgs use pre-edits very often, but there's a way they can incorporate this into their current playstyle. Clix and Higgs love to play from height, but with Fizz and overdrive grenades, it's really easy for other teams to fight for it. When players start contesting height, Clix and Higgs can give it up and start playing with pre-edits on different layers. If they keep an eye on how many solo players are left in the lobby, this could be the easiest way for them to get more kills on the board. However, there's a detail in execution that Clix and Higgs need to clean up a little bit. When you're running pre-edits, your side and back need to be covered. The second another team sees a close range fight breakout in the endgame, they will focus you. We commonly see Clix and Higgs take unnecessary damage from other teams just by having different angles exposed. So when Clix and Higgs are moving through the endgame, they need to know when to back off of height and seek out opportunities for easy kills on solo players while staying protected. One of the biggest things that Clix and Higgs have to do in order to win is be ready mentally from the start. When you're contested, your mentality can matter just as much as your fighting ability. It's really easy to get tilted when off-spawn fights don't go your way. If game 1 goes well, then at the start of game 2, just pretend you have 0 points. If game 1 doesn't go your way, stay focused and positive. Your teammate will feed off of your energy as well. Clix and Higgs won't have a coach in their ear at LAN to help manage the emotions or crash outs that might come from their off-spawn battles. So they need to lock in and be mentally prepared so things don't spiral out of control against Shark and Teeny, who are both very talented and great fighters. The most important thing for their mental right now is to put their grand finals performance behind them and take things one game at a time moving forward. FNCS isn't just about being the best fighter. You and your duo have to play nearly perfect Fortnite for 3 hours. For Clix and Higgs, it's going to come down to winning their off-spawn battles quickly. improving their awareness for Surge, prioritizing positioning in endgames and north zones, sticking to a plan for more eliminations, and finally staying mentally locked in no matter what happens. If they can put all of that together, they absolutely have a chance to win it all, even while being contested. But if they slip up in even one of those areas, everything could fall apart. I'll be attending this LAN in person, so hopefully I'm there to see Clix finally get his first FNCS. Thank you guys so much for watching.